With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Having It All podcast, the show about what it takes to live an abundant, loving life. My name is Matthew Bivens, and each week I'm helping you get out of your head so that you can truly have it all. Let's do it. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Having It All podcast. I am Matthew Bivens, your balanced lifestyle coach, and I am very, very excited and grateful that you chose to hang out with me today and invest your time in a conversation about having it all. That's what we do here. We talk about what it looks like to live an abundant, loving life. And today's conversation is very cool. I am excited to bring it to you. I sat down with my amazing queen, my wife, my life partner, Sarah, and we had a really raw and open conversation about sex and intimacy. So about a month ago, we did a conversation about the difference between a relationship and a partnership. And it was great. If you haven't listened to it, go back. It was, again, about 1 month ago on this podcast, on Having It All. And so recently, we sat down to talk about sex versus intimacy. And this originally aired on our other podcast, Doing It at Home. Now, what I really love about this conversation is the original intention was to just look at the differences between sex and intimacy, to discuss both of them, give different context around them, and talk about how, you can be having sex without there being any intimacy. However, in our opinion, the most magical combination is when you have the two together, the sex and the intimacy. So that's the intention of this conversation. Now, what's really cool is the entire conversation takes a turn. It just goes to the left. And it ends up being almost like an interview where I'm interviewing Sarah. And Sarah is sharing very openly about her process of going from somebody who was, sexually shut down, sexually turned off, and how she grew and healed and eventually transformed into, this sexual goddess that I know and experience today. And she drops some bombs. Like there's one part in the conversation where she shares this belief that an adult authority figure in her life gave her, this belief about the role of men and women in sex. And you're going to hear just how impactful that belief was and how she viewed herself and how she viewed her role in a relationship. And it just gives you such tremendous insight into the power of a belief and the power of a thought. And so my intention with letting you all in on this conversation is that simply by hearing her and I discuss this, that it starts to, or it just continues to unlock healing within yourself. Because I believe that just by tuning into a conversation like this, things are going to shift for you. Things are going to start, changing. Your perception might shift. Your behavior, you might feel inspired to change some behavior, or at least a thought, like a new thought might be dropped in there. So that's the space that I hold for you, that you get something out of this, even if it's not conscious, if it's subconscious, like we're going to be speaking right to the subconscious here. So I'm excited for you about that. And again, this was just a cool thing because we started off with one intention and then the conversation just turns and we really get into some great stuff. I open up, I get vulnerable, Sarah opens up, she gets vulnerable. And what we end up with is a really, really magical conversation that is going to promote a lot of sexual expansion and healing and deeper understanding of ourselves. So I'm excited for you to check it out. I would love for you to share some feedback after you're done listening to the episode. Share with me your thoughts, your feelings. If you have further questions, if you want us to dive in deeper on these types of conversations, let me know. You can reach out to me at matthew@matthewbivens.com or on my Instagram at Matthew_Bivens. And if you have a question for Sarah, just reach out to me on those two places. I'll send it along to her. I'll make sure she gets that. And yep. So like I said, this originally aired on Doing It at Home. And so I'm going to cut all of the chit chat that Sarah and I have at the beginning, and we're going to just drop right into our conversation. Enjoy. Let's get into some sexy talk.
Let's talk about sex. Our sex episodes, as we have so fondly coined them.
Sex episode.
I love it. It just rolls off the tongue very nicely. Sex episode. And you know what it's about when you come here, and it's us talking. It's going to be real. It's probably going to be funny, a little goofy, and it's us. And that's what we want to bring to this conversation today, because in our community, sex and intimacy comes up a lot, from listener emails to social media posts and comments and things like that. It's a hot topic, and rightfully so. I think it's amazing. And, this sex episode is long overdue. So here we are.
Yeah, it's part of the process of creating the babies.
Yes, it certainly is. And then beyond that, continuing and cultivating that energy and allowing it to fuel other things that you do beyond make babies. I mean, if you want to make more of them, yes, awesome. And, I think through the birth stories that we hear, you see that connection of just that raw energy that's at play when you bring a baby into the world. And obviously we know that connection with how baby got there to begin with. And so it's not then that much bigger of a leap after that to see how that could impact other areas of your life.
Oh, yeah.
And we were just talking with a mama today who was thinking about, in times of struggle or when she feels challenged, she can go back to her birth and remember that she went through that experience. And I did that, so I can do this. Well, you made a baby, had a baby, and so now you can use that same power and source within you. So yeah, I just felt like saying that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you're highlighting is just a slightly different way to look at sex and sexual energy in general.
Yes.
That there's a purpose for sex beyond making babies, beyond it feeling good, feeling pleasurable, beyond doing it for a sense of duty or anything like that. And that's our belief, and it is a belief. Right. I mean, everybody gets to choose what they want to believe, and we certainly believe that that there's a different alternate purpose to sex than the things that I listed, and therefore the way that we approach sex and intimacy is influenced by the way that we view it.
Yes,
like our lens, and that's why we wanted to talk about those two things today: sex and intimacy, because they're different, they are distinct. They are powerful when, on their own. They're powerful when you overlap them together. And it's easy to get one kind of confused for the other. And I believe we've done a pretty damn effective job at experiencing both, at merging them and bringing them together, at really utilizing the space of intimate connecting, of lovemaking to do a lot with.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And, this is our space to share some of that. And like you said, it's our beliefs. So it's our experience that we'll expand upon, because that's the only one we can really speak to and share, and tie it in with, where you, listener, might see yourself, or what you might be able to take from it, or where you relate or don't and want to do the opposite. But, it's there as an example. And, that's the cool thing about beliefs. You can shift them and you can determine in time based on the feedback that you're getting. Feedback could be how you're physically feeling, how your relationship is going, what your friends and family and how they're observing you. You get to tell in time based on that feedback if you want to shift that up or if you want to keep doing things the way that you're doing. So if the way you are currently relating to sex and intimacy works for you, then keep going and add to it and expand upon it. If it's not working for you, see how you can shift it up.
Yeah, and that idea of shifting up a belief, it can be as easy as, flipping a switch, but it can also be pretty
it's
challenging.
Usually not, yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we enjoy going to the gym, right? And if you're in the gym and you're doing some sort of exercise and you're telling yourself, this is hard, this is hard, this is hard, it's probably going to be hard. Your body's going to feel heavier. You're not going to feel as engaged. You're probably going to want the experience to be over. But then if you can make that switch in your brain to say, okay, I can do this, or I can flow through this, or I'm strong enough, there tends to be some sort of experiential difference as well. Your body might do something different and the overall end result might be different because you shifted up that thought or you shifted up that belief. The ability to do that can be like flipping a switch, although sometimes, particularly in an area like sex, there's a lot of stuff that goes behind that initial thought.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emotion behind it. If you're saying to yourself, we've lost our intimacy, or everything feels so awkward, or this is uncomfortable. It may not necessarily be like flipping a switch. Some people might be able to experience that in some moments, maybe it's more effective than others, but still the idea of it's a belief, that's what I really wanted to touch on. It's a belief, and you can change your beliefs. And as you change your beliefs, you'll have different outcomes.
Yeah. Well, you might flip the switch and then everything goes haywire and you have to go down into the basement, like in our house, and go to the circuit breaker and fix some stuff, right. And then go back up, and it might work for a little while, and then it short circuits again, and then you got to go down again and rewire some stuff, and maybe you even need to call in technicians and experts, that.
A sex technician?
I bet you it exists. A sex technician.
I didn't know if you were continuing with the analogy or you were...
That's it. I'm done.
Okay. Let's talk about real stuff instead of analogous.
All right. So sex and intimacy as concepts, as experiences, I believe you can have each without the other. They can exist independent of one another. And yet, the way I see it, when they are combined in a really healthy way and you cultivate a healthy relationship and have great mindsets and habits around it, then that's where the magic happens, when they can combine together sex and intimacy. But I can definitely see where you can experience intimacy without sex and you can experience sex without intimacy.
Absolutely. I mean, just think of sex is just the actual physical act that we're talking about. You can absolutely do that without there being intimacy.
Any sort of connection.
Yeah.
I guess it's helpful then to look at yourself, how you define each of those.
True.
What you see as sex and then what you see as intimacy, and where and how there is and can be overlap, but for how you see it.
Yeah. I mean, if we're just talking about the physical act, that can absolutely happen without intimacy. And in this, we'll go ahead and define those for this conversation. Cool. At least. I mean, intimacy, the way that I love breaking it down the way that we do. Into me, I see.
Yes.
And for me, that into me, I see is all about connection with yourself. And therefore that allows connection with whoever you're with.
Absolutely.
It implies vulnerability, being really willing to look at yourself and being really willing to look at and be with your partner.
Yeah.
It implies courage, because those things take courage to do that. And that's why those areas seem so scary, because when you step into that, sexual experience, it's the intimacy that I think I know for me at least, it was the intimacy that would create intimidation.
Sure.
Because all the things that would come up, all the conversations that would come up within me, all the inadequacy conversations, all of the, how long am I going to last? Am I pleasing my partner? What does this mean about me as a man? All of that stuff comes up, and that's the stuff that the into me I see.
Yeah.
if I don't want to be intimate, I don't want to see those things. I don't want to face those things. I don't want to have to deal with and process those things. So I'll shun the intimacy. Nope, I don't want to get intimate.
Yeah.
I just want to just have the act. I want the physical
gratification.
It's the physical gratification.
Yeah.
I want the orgasm. You know what I mean? And so I'll go for the orgasm. I won't go for the intimacy. And so, you can have one without the other for sure.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
And so for this conversation, at least, from my context, intimacy is all about that connection within yourself, that connection with your partner, the vulnerability, the courage, the honesty, the authenticity. All of that is the intimacy.
Yeah. Because a lot of people are having sex without any sort of intimacy or connection. A lot of babies are being made without intimacy or connection. And that's not a judgment. It just, that is what it is. And how can you, if you're interested in it, how can you become aware of that, what space you're operating from, and how can we grow more intimate with ourselves, with our partners, to have great sex and have it be pleasurable and magical and everyone wins and our kids win, all of it. So you had a thought?
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing as well. Like, you can very, very strongly desire that intimacy with your partner, but not know how to approach it or achieve it.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, in our relationship, we have had sex without intimacy, for sure. There have been probably many occasions, especially early on, when it was like the intimacy was scary and the sex and the gratification, the physical, that's what we were going for. And I can say that because of how far we've come, and I can look back and say, wow, those experiences versus these experiences are very different. Not necessarily better or worse, just very different. And one of the big differences is the intimacy.
Yeah.
And so, you can desire that intimacy and want that with your partner and not necessarily know how to navigate those waters.
Yeah, you feel stuck.
You might feel stuck. You might feel lost. You might feel, maybe the awkwardness or discomfort or whatever is just overwhelming. Both of you are feeling uncomfortable. No guidance.
Yeah, who's teaching us this? No one's teaching us this. And where are we having real, honest, loving, empowering conversations about it that aren't, what you might typically see or hear about, a group of women around some cocktails gossiping, or a group of men sitting around some beers doing that, or, like, that's kind of what comes to mind when you think about where conversations around communication, where conversations around sex and intimacy are probably going on in groups like that. It's probably not the most empowering.
We'll talk about it in like with you personally. So, like, for example, with me, I did not want to be fully honest with my guy friends about certain feelings I had. I'll share the things that will help me to look like the sexual conqueror.
Yeah.
but this is back in the day. Like, I would speak of myself and the experiences, like I was the man.
Right.
And I might crack the door a little bit around something truthful that was vulnerable, but it was always in a safe vulnerability.
Sure.
I didn't talk about what was really going on. The fears that I really had. It wasn't years later, probably till after I started my podcast, that I was really like, okay, this is the actual stuff that went on in my head as I was experiencing X, Y, and Z. And so that's what was going on in my friend groups.
Yeah.
What about you? Talk about, like, what was going on in your friend groups. How real and raw and honest and vulnerable were you getting? Not very.
I mean, it might get explicit in terms of, and I say explicit meaning like you'd details. Get down into the details of things, but not
vulnerable.
No, not conversations around intimacy. And so, like I said, who's teaching us this or who's modeling this. And, you know, for many of us, the idea of the most formative, intimate relationship we see is that of our parents. And then say your parents were divorced, like a lot of people out
like
there,
both of us.
and you don't see both of your parents interact together. You know, it's, who's teaching us this? And then when you're in the midst of it, trying to navigate it both for yourself and then with your partner, and then throw in 1 or 2 kids, and there's this whole dynamic now, and you just, it can easily feel defeating and this huge daunting thing. And at times, like, it's not even worth really getting through the stuff, going through it, because the mountains just seem so insurmountable. Like,
I think that's a great point.
Being tired, we already have 2 kids or 1 kid or whatever that is, you know, it's just the things add up, and that pile gets so high, and it just becomes like, I just don't know if that's worth it, just going through all that stuff. And let's just make do with what we've got, and let's just, you know, have some sex. Maybe we'll have a few great date nights here and there. You know, we love each other, of course, but you know, like this kind of settling thing that I think just is too easy to fall into at times, because that real intimacy scares us.
I absolutely have had very many settling conversations in my mind over the years. Different partners, probably early on with you. Like, okay, because for me, I was just terrified to express what I wanted to experience. I just wouldn't express it. I was terrified to express if I found somebody else attractive. You know, like somebody we saw on TV or, you know, at a restaurant or something. Just did not have the courage to really authentically put it out there. And so I had a lot of conversations of, well, I really would like to have the experience, but that's probably never going to happen. So let me just get okay in my mind with that not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would always do is, because that energy wasn't going anywhere, and we understand everything is energy and energy doesn't get destroyed. So that energy of that desire wasn't going anywhere. So I would have a backdoor outlet in porn.
Yeah.
So all the things that I wanted to experience, whether it was you or another partner or whatever, like if I told myself it wasn't going to happen in my actual relationship, it would happen over there. I just have to imagine that type of thing goes on all over the place.
That trap.
Yeah, like if it, you know, for me, the amount of courage it took to share honestly in the relationship I was in, how I was feeling and what I wanted to desire, was just, it was too much.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have, it was too scary.
Mm-hmm.
The risks were too high. I think I felt a lot of shame and guilt. Like the things I wanted to experience were wrong. And so like having those intimate conversations, just, I didn't want to have them.
Yeah.
And so then to your earlier point, I think when you get in that space and you just decide that you aren't going to step closer and through your comfort zone around the conversation of intimacy and, you know, sexual connection and all that, then you it's very easy to start to say, okay, well, let me kind of dial back what I expect to experience in my relationship.
Yeah.
Let me lower that bar a little bit. Let me work on getting okay with not having the experience that I want.
Yeah.
And I think that we can be pretty darn effective at that.
Yeah. When you were describing some of your experience, what came up for me, you know, you talked about you said the back door of porn or something like that.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
this is my escape hatch over here.
Yeah. Which I don't know why, but like backdoor and porn in the same sentence kind of threw me for a second. But I'm cool.
You're back?
I'm here.
Have you returned?
My porn was emotional porn, so intimacy porn. You know, like fake, like processed food version of intimacy in the form of, you know, books, movies, songs, you know, and that's where I would kind of get that fix, so to speak. And I'm sure I'm not alone in there.
Yeah.
And the idea, this false idea, like someone has a unhealthy relationship to porn thinks that's what sex looks like. You know, I'm sure I had a skewed view of what a relationship looks like in terms of the dynamics and romanticism and power dynamics and levels and codependency and jealousy. And so what I was cooking up and thought I wanted as far as a relationship and the intimacy and the sex in it was not really based in reality. But then also that, say there was a healthier version of that, I wasn't certified to even have that. And by that, I mean, I wasn't doing any of the inner work necessary to attract anything like that. And so whether you're already in a relationship or not, I think the level and the degree to which you're willing to work on yourself and take responsibility for your beliefs and your stuff around all of this, around sex and intimacy, that how willing you are to do that is going to impact the level of the kind of magical relationship you can have. Does that make sense?
So for you,
yeah.
What was it that shifted within you to where you said it's worth to start doing that work? Because prior to that, maybe the cost. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was two things. I think I reached a very poignant stage in my life, probably in 2011, 2012, when I was just sick of my own shit. And by that, I mean just sick of all the stuff that, you know, the relationships that didn't work, how I felt about myself, how I felt about men, I don't know. You just like get sick of stuff. Like there was that breaking point of like, I'm sick of this. And I think it came simultaneously with this acceptance that no one's going to save me, meaning no partner is going to come in on that white horse and change everything. That's not how it's going to work. And if someone does come in and try and do that, that might be a temporary relief of sorts, maybe a Band-Aid, but I'm going to go back to being exactly who I was before that happened because I'm not doing anything to change that. So I think it was this kind of simultaneous thing of being totally sick of the stink of my own shit and realizing that no one was going to take care of me for me.
And what was your own shit? Like, what did that actually look like?
Codependency in relationships, using sex to get the things that I wanted, you know, in kind of unconscious, manipulative ways to keep the relationship. So have more sex to put off the other things that we're not addressing or talking about or doing, or putting all of my emotional eggs in the basket of some other person and expecting them to care for them and know what to do with them and be the steward of them. It's like, that's not anyone's responsibility.
So if you were sensing the relationship was starting to cool off and you didn't want that, would your reaction or response be to increase the sex?
Probably.
I mean, can you remember if that was?
You're just using it as a distractionary kind of tactic from whatever was going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just curious because, like, you know, I feel like this is a glimpse into what people actually think and do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy to talk about, you know, stepping into the comfort zone or staying in your fears. But like, we don't, and I just say we as in the general, there aren't very many places where we actually get into like, what were you actually fucking thinking?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say something that a formative parental figure told me when I was young, and it stuck with me for a while, and it really fucked with me. And it was that girls give sex for love and boys give love for sex.
Girls give sex for love, to receive love.
Yes.
And boys give love. Oh shit.
Yeah. That really messed with me.
And they told you that, like, hey Sarah, you need to know
Like
this
a
about
way
the
of the
world.
world kind of thing.
Oh my gosh.
And I can see how I played that out.
Yeah.
I put that into, I gave it arms and legs. I breathed life into it. And so I think in lots of ways I used sex as like a keep loving me type of thing. I'll keep giving you this thing that I know that you want, and then you can give me what I want. And, you know, the barometer of a great relationship is obviously how much sex you're having. And so, yeah. And it was in relationships too. So I didn't have sex outside of relationships, for, you know, thankfully for myself. Because I think if I was doing that on top of how I was already operating in relationships, I would have had a lot more things to peel back and work through. So it was just in relationships. I wasn't having sex with people, which that's cool. Not, you know, however you do you, boo.
So I don't know. I don't intend this to become like an interview.
Oh gosh.
But I'm learning stuff. This is
You
great.
are.
I'm
Okay.
learning stuff. Okay, so women give love for sex.
No.
Women give sex for love.
Yeah.
And men give love for sex. That was
Which-
the thought.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sure someone heard that and was like, oh, damn.
Oh, yeah. I know people who
Like,
just heard that. And
When
they were
did
like,
I do that?
Yes.
Or when am I doing that right now? Like, when in my
Yes.
relationship am I dead ass tired from everything that's going on? I'm not loving myself. I'm not taking care of myself. But, you know, my husband or my partner wants to have sex and I have to have sex with him right now because he wants to. And if I don't do it right now, he's not going to love me. He's not going to want me anymore. He's going to go have sex with someone else. He's going to go jerk off to porn. He's like, yes, that's happening right now.
I better give it up right now so that
Yeah.
he's happy and everything.
Yeah. And I don't need to mentally
is
be
cool.
there or emotionally be there. Like, it's just, you know, just a vagina, just a body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got this thought that you shared was implanted by some parental figure. You know, the women and men and the reasons for sex and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long ago, 30 minutes ago, we were talking about being able to shift a thought. You know, like you can change your thoughts. And then as a result, a lot of other things might change. Can you talk about maybe what was it that started to help you shift that thought and change that belief?
Loving myself
What do you mean by that?
at a small level. So I'm thinking about just starting super basic level. What that looked like was the combination of little habits that when they got added together started changing how I was feeling about how I woke up in the morning, was changing how I looked at relationships and what they were. So some of those habits, meditating, going to therapy, running, which I'd already been running most of my life, but just running in a different way, working out, not drinking alcohol anymore.
How did any of those, other than the therapy, because I could see you go to therapy and you talk about this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
how could any of those address your, you know, whatever you would quote unquote diagnose yourself with? Like, was it a self-worth thing that you felt like you were having, that as to where?
It had to have been.
So how did any of those habits that you mentioned help with that?
Something shifted where I started to see them as doing them for myself. So doing the meditations for myself, because I was willing to trust that by putting in some time on these things, that there would be results at some point. I didn't know exactly when they would be, and I was open to them shifting around. But I had to commit to something. I had to, because like I said, I was sick of what I had been experiencing. So I think it was just this willingness that things could change if I looked at them differently.
Yeah, I get that.
And it was the first time in my young adult life for an extended period of time where I wasn't in a relationship. So this was before you and I really locked in. And that's when a lot of stuff really started shifting for me. It was right before you and I really got together. So I'm grateful for that. And so I think not being in a relationship was also a great setup for that too, because I wasn't looking to someone else for their validation that I was doing these things. I wasn't looking to do it to be a better partner for this person. I was looking to do it to just be a better me, because I was really sad and I felt really broken. And
what were you withholding? Like, you're with your partner, they want sex. You have that thought that then kicks in, that part of the reason why I give sex is for love. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm just curious, like in those moments, what did you actually want to say? What did you actually want to do? What did you actually want to express that you were withholding? Because where I'm going with this is, I also want to hear, and I'm going to share my experience as well. When did you start healing that in the actual bedroom? Because we both understand that, like, if there's something sexual that went on that needs healing, like ultimately you got to get back in the bedroom to heal it.
right.
It's like if a parent threw me in a pool and I got this fear of water because someone threw me in the pool when I was 5 years old, I can talk about it all day long outside of the water, but it isn't until I get back in the damn pool that I can actually heal through it.
Yeah.
So that's like the two-parter for you. I'm curious, like, what did you actually want to express in those moments that you then didn't?
Yeah.
And then when and how, what did you actually work on healing it in the bedroom?
So when I think about what I would have really had been wanting to express, something along the lines of, I want to know I matter. I want to know I'm important to you. I want to know that I'm worthy. A lot of kind of validation seeking, probably.
Through their words or through their actions?
Both. So I felt like in a number of my formative relationships before you that I wasn't near the top of the list of anything else that was going on in people's lives. And that was hard for me. And it's interesting, looking back on it now, thinking about that, I felt second or third or even fourth to other things or entities or experiences or obligations. So it was wanting to feel like number one, I guess, wanting to feel like a priority. And how that started healing, well, I feel like through that loving myself process that I described, and you asked what some of that specifically looked like, it was because I didn't make myself a priority. I tried to make a relationship a priority without doing the same service for myself.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I can now see not coming to the table whole and complete in my own self. And I was expecting someone else to do that for me, and to motivate them to want to do that for me, I guess, was to give the thing or do the things that would inspire that, would motivate that.
Like, hey, look what I'm doing for you. I'm like the best girlfriend ever.
Oh.
So that should get you to want to be better for me.
Oh yeah. I could play the martyr really well.
Yeah.
And like, look at what I'm willing to sacrifice, and look at how I'm willing to lose myself for the sake of either supporting you in your dreams and your visions, or to be the most dutiful partner there ever was. And yeah, wanting that recognition.
Oh,
yeah.
I feel like that's so relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at all the things that I'm doing for you.
Yeah.
Why aren't you appreciating them? Why aren't you recognizing me for them? Why aren't you trying to be better for me? Or why aren't you trying to,
Yeah. And so I had to look at for myself, why did I need that?
Yeah.
Why do I need that? Why am I coming from that place? What's causing this lack, scarcity space that I'm coming from? And it's just that I wasn't loving myself through it.
Now, intentional, conscious conversations or things that you were thinking about.
Mm-mm.
So looking back, you're now thinking about that. So like in some of those relationships, they ended, and when they ended, were you still wondering, why didn't this person love me better? Or why didn't this person change for me? Or
yeah, why wouldn't they rise to the potential that I saw in them for me? Was I not worth that? Was I not, how could I have possibly poured more into that situation? I couldn't have, because I gave everything. So then what? What does that mean about me? What does that mean about you? What does that mean about my prospects of ever finding a relationship that's going to work? A lot of question marks.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
At Arizona State University, we offer a variety of programs online designed and taught by a renowned faculty to empower your success. That's why 87% of ASU online graduates stated they were promoted or received an increase in salary after earning their degree. Visit asuonline.asu.edu.
so then somewhere along the lines, you heard or started thinking or whatever, picked up this thought of like, let me start doing things for me.
Yeah, because it's clearly not working to try to find myself in someone else.
Was that kind of some of what motivated that? Like, you know what? This isn't working over here, so I may as well start meditating and running and eating better. Like,
yeah, I was getting a lot of feedback that shit wasn't working. So like I told you, I was just sick of how I felt physically, emotionally. I was really sad. I felt really lonely. I felt really broken. And then my actual body started breaking. You know, I had 2 life-altering surgeries in the course of a couple of weeks and a week in the hospital. And, you know, it was a hernia surgery gone wrong. And then I had this crazy infection and, you know, all my organs started shutting down. It's like, it's all, you know, we also, another belief we throw in there is the connection of it all and how our bodies are telling us things. And I think my body was just done with me and everything from my thought patterns to the people I was betting to all of it. It was just like, stop, girl, like stop.
yeah.
So, whew. Yeah.
Again, it's great. I didn't expect
this. I didn't expect this at all.
It's funny. It's like we go in with the intention of, all right, let's talk about this. You know, we have a couple notes and this and that, but I just love how it organically goes because this is so connected to sex and intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are unwilling to look at those things, then there's not going to be any real true intimacy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you might have those moments where, you know, you're sitting on the hood of your car, listening to music, looking at stars with your partner. Like, you know, those are great moments. But the into me I see, the true depth, like you are opening yourself up and there's nothing between you and who you really are.
Yeah.
There's no clothing to mask all, you know, who you are. There's no literal like or figurative mask on your face. You aren't playing this character. It's just you.
Yeah.
Like that shit can be terrifying, you know? And so it's, I think we got to talk about it because it's a process to go through that, to get to where both of us were to where we are.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to go back for a second because I don't want to leave it unaddressed. You did ask a second part to that question of, you know, something to the extent of when did I start healing it actually in the bedroom and all of that. So, I mean, the real answer to that question, when did the experiential start matching with the mental and the emotional? Honestly, probably 5 years ago. It's not even that long ago. And I think that's...
And by the way, we've been together
8 years. Yeah. 8 years. I think it's because, well, it doesn't really, the why doesn't really matter so much to me, like why then and why it was just that process for me of really getting with me. And then it was helpful, not necessary, but beautiful and helpful to have a partner in you who was also working on himself to then support each other in unpacking our stuff and sharing it with other people and utilizing resources and things outside of each other, because that's a whole other thing too. You know, if you're navigating these waters and so is your partner, and we just talked about earlier, no one's really teaching us how to do this stuff. And so you are both in real time trying to figure this thing out together and then pinging back off each other with all your junk. It's like that can be an uphill battle when it's just the two of you trying to navigate this whole thing, and you bring all of your biases and you want to support each other the best you can. But I think what happens a lot in our relationships, especially when we're working on stuff that's sticky and uncomfortable and whatever, it's like, I like analogies, so I'm gonna go here for a second. It's like we both have our own assignments, our own class assignments, but we're looking over each other's shoulders and trying to critique and do each other's stuff when we have our own unique assignments. And that is trouble. That's trouble when we try to do each other's homework, you know, or try to do each other's projects. You know, we have our unique assignments. So anyway, that's all kind of to the side, but 5-6 years ago maybe, and I think it was just the time, just sheer time it takes for things to sink in and to process, and, you know, think about all the stuff that we're carrying with us, probably go decades deep. And it took a long time to lay those things down. And so now you're in this setting where stuff's starting to open up, or you're open to new ideas and you're open to healing. Well, just to be patient with yourself in that process, because that takes time. It takes time to heal deep wounds or clean out things that are really, you know, dirty. That stuff takes time. So
I think it's important to say that.
Yes.
Because having the partners who are willing, both parties or however many parties are in your relationship, are willing to go there within themselves. You know, like if you do this for yourself, meaning you go and you look at all the stuff and you just work on it, like you'll find that it takes time.
Yeah.
You know, and going back to one of the things we said early on, the paradigm around sex that has shifted for us, where we view sex as a space for healing.
Yeah.
Like if you don't view your sexual intimacy and sexual energy and lovemaking as a space for healing, then you may not approach it like that.
Right.
And if there is some sort of event that you experience that has left some sort of scar on you emotionally or otherwise, and you don't believe that scar can get worked on or the thing can get addressed in the bedroom, then, you know, I hope you find another place to be able to address it. We have found that it helps, as if you adopt this paradigm that, you know what, sexual energy can actually heal.
Mm-hmm.
It can heal physically, it can heal emotionally. And that context has been a game changer for us.
Yeah. Because
then what has happened is you've already shared a lot of the stuff that you brought into the relationship from your sexual past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've shared about the things that I brought into the relationship from sexual past. And we both can look at our coming together to make love as a space where, or not even to make love, our coming together to move that sexual energy however we choose to express it in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
It might be lovemaking, it might be fellatio and cunnilingus, it might be intimate massaging, it might be just breathing together, holding each other and breathing. Whatever it is that we choose to express in that moment, we come into it with the utilizing that space for healing. And so it's like when the space is created for healing, then I know for myself, I felt more comfortable allowing some of that stuff to come up.
Yeah.
Whether it was a thought that would come up and I wouldn't just immediately suppress it, but I would let the thought come up and like look at it with a little bit more perspective, a little bit more objectively. You know, the thought of, you know, she won't be satisfied if you don't make her come.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now we're not actually having sex. I'm not actually touching her yoni. So we're just breathing and doing massage. So is that thought really true? Is that idea really true? You know, like because we both were approaching the space as a healing space, it like gave me permission to allow that thought to come up, and then I could like be with that thought and think about it. And then what we would even do afterwards, we'll talk about what came up for us during the massage or whatever. I'm like, babe, you know what came up for me? Like this thought of like, I'm only a man if I make her come multiple times and she squirts across the room. It's like, that's what came up for me when I was massaging your back. And I just had a chance to deal with that. I'm just letting you in on our actual process as to how we actually cultivate intimacy and healing, utilizing the bedroom or the space, the sexual connecting space to do that. And what it results is the trust goes really high between us. I trust myself, honestly. That's probably first and foremost. Like, I trust myself that the next time that thought comes up, I'll be able to handle it powerfully. Or the next time a belief comes up that I picked up from somewhere else, like it won't, completely shut me down so my penis stops working, my erection goes away, and now I'm scared and all that. Like, I can actually feel like I'm capable of dealing with those thoughts and those things. And so that increases intimacy. And then when we talk about what does come up, that increases intimacy. And then when we're both coming together for the same thing, like we're coming together for that purpose of healing or manifesting or whatever, and like we're both aligned in that creates intimacy. And that's just bedroom intimacy, because there's so much other intimacy.
There's many forms. And
like the things that we do, I'm like sitting up now, I'm getting into this. Like the things that we do throughout the day. Like we work together and we see each other all the damn time. So on a day like today, we've been around each other from like 6 a.m. And it's going on. What time is it now?
4:20. It's
4:20. We're looking at the clock because we're like, oh, we got to get our kids soon. So we've been together the whole time. And throughout the day, there's been all these little sprinkles of intimacy, from the booty pats to the kisses. You like to throw your arms around me and give me a big kiss.
I do.
To doing yoga together and having a coffee date. And you know what I mean? Like those are all opportunities for us to cultivate our intimacy by being kind to each other. Yeah. By being thoughtful for one another. Hey, I'm making this. Do you want some? By physical touch, by speaking each other's love languages.
Yeah, love languages.
And so all of that stuff builds that intimacy. So then we get into the bedroom or on the couch or whatever, and now the intimacy's there, and then you add the sex on top of it, and as you said at the top of the episode, it's just magical.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that intimacy piece, into me I see. That's the scariest part. Scariest part.
Yeah. Looking at yourself.
Yeah. And being willing to like own it.
Because then those circumstances that come up, which are super common, probably all too common, of say one partner's in a space to move sexual energy, have sex, be intimate, and one's not. It's through that practice of that intimacy that you can get beyond those moments that can otherwise kind of cause a big breakdown and maybe have a multi-day sort of funk in your house or in your situation. It's when you are releasing those tempting codependency habits and are really in ownership of yourself and your emotions and your sexuality and your own intimacy, that one partner could be zigging and the other one could be zagging, and yet you'll find your way back to your common ground in your time. So what that looks like for us is, say one of us is in the mood to either be intimate or have sex or both, and the other is not, and that's either been expressed or shared. It's about having the maturity and the high level of transparency to acknowledge that. And, partner A says to partner B, I understand you have your things and you're in a certain space and I'm not in that space. So go do what you need to do to take care of yourself. I'm going to do what I need to do to take care of myself, and let's reconvene when we're ready.
Yeah. I mean, let's just give a real example, because that has happened to us recently within the past week, where you were in the mood to connect and I wasn't. And that is a great opportunity for both. It was an awesome opportunity for you to express what you wanted to experience.
Right. And not take how you responded as a cue to never express it again.
which is so easy to
something
do.
that comes
it's like,
up.
I'll put this out there, but if they say no, I'm never going to put it out there again.
Right. So there's that. And there's also not taking it personally on where you are at and understanding that I am the ruler of my dominion.
Yes.
And I don't have to take that personally. It's not a slight to me. It's not that you love me any less. It's not that you want me any less or you're any less attracted to me. And I'm going to go do then what I need to do. So that's on one side of it, what might be going through the mind and how you process. And then for your party.
Yeah, or just me. I'm not even gonna talk about the other party. I'm like talking about specifically me.
Cool.
You know, because that situation came up. You know, you wanted to connect and you expressed it. And when I heard it, I kind of did that like scan, like, and where am I at in this moment? Do I feel like I'm in a space to connect in this moment? And my answer to myself was no. And so I think most of the time I wouldn't express that the way that I did the other night. Like maybe I would try to give other hints or other things or say, it's 4:00 and I know that our time to possibly connect would be at 9 after the kiddo goes down. So it's like I got time to get myself in that mode. But for the other day, for whatever reason, I just shared honestly. I said, you know what? In this moment right now, I don't feel it. But I don't remember exactly what I said, but something like that. In this moment, I don't feel that, but I'm open to connecting and getting myself, like moving that energy within myself. And then you did what you just said. You didn't take it personally. You didn't let my response cause you to never say anything again.
Yeah.
And you went and just did your own thing and kept yourself at that high queen space of just, floating in your awesomeness. And then just trusted that I was going to do my thing. And if it ended up with us connecting and lovemaking, beautiful. And if it didn't, it didn't. And so then I think I said what I would like to do is, I think I said something like this, like I would like to hang out, watch a show, like hang out on the couch together with our phones away and just be intimate. I think I said something like that. Do you remember?
No, I don't, which is rare for me, but here we are.
I wish you did, because I remember I said like, I want to put the phones away.
Yeah.
I will watch our show, but we'll do it in like a connected way.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
Yeah. So something like that. Because I just kind of knew in myself that just because the engine wasn't warm right then doesn't mean that it wasn't going to get warm. And then intimacy built and the connection built and we ended up making love. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's a great scenario that you brought up. One person puts it out there and the other person feels however they feels, says whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, those are great moments to practice being honest, to practice holding space for yourself, to practice not taking something personally, like my answer had nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. And that's, you trusted that. And then to continue to hold space for that connection to happen. And that, I don't know. I gave ourselves props for that experience.
That's your role today. You're giving us all the props for our things.
Well, just because that wouldn't always happen.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You know? Like in our relationship, that wouldn't always happen. Mm-hmm. One of us puts it out there and then the other is yes or no, or the feeling of obligation. Mm-hmm. So to just be honest about it. I think what that does for me is I trust more that I can ask for what I want and I can reply with what's real for me. And I can trust that you are going to be able to answer and relate to it in a powerful way. Mm-hmm. And I hope that you trust that you could the same thing for me.
Yeah.
And it's like we both had to be a little courageous in that moment. You had to be courageous to put out there what you wanted to experience. And I had to be courageous to give my authentic response.
Yeah, speak your truth.
Yeah. And then we both had to trust that the other person was going to handle our trust with maturity. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I just think everything goes up. Everything was uplifted. Mm-hmm. So I know this kicked off around sex versus intimacy and the differences. And I hope that I hope that we leave everybody listening with some insights into how we have actually processed these things, like where we were years ago, even within our own relationship, but years ago with how we viewed sex versus how we viewed intimacy, how we avoided looking at ourselves, like the into me I see. We weren't doing that. It was all about the other person and what we wanted to get out of the other person or what we felt we had to do. And then how we just slowly navigated cracking ourselves open and peeling back layers and seeing what was there and not judging what was there and just gently, working with it.
Yeah.
And then using the space of sexually intimate connecting as a space for healing. And it heals as we are honest, as we are vulnerable, as we trust ourselves and trust one another, as we share openly, as we express ourselves, as we don't avoid the things that are uncomfortable. Like, you can't avoid this stuff. If you want any shot of things improving, you can't avoid it. It's not, as you said, babe, you were like, I just, at some point you realize you couldn't just wish it to get better. You can't. It's not going to get better. You got to actually step into it. That's the only way. And you can't expect your partner to just change and just do it, because that's part of your opportunity to heal. If you think it's all on your partner.
Yeah.
That's part of your opportunity as well, because it's co-created.
Yeah.
However many people are in your little relationship, 2, 3, 4, whatever, all of you are creating it together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as everybody decides that they're going to turn the lens back on themselves and really look at themselves and really explore what comes up, what disempowering beliefs, what unhealthy thoughts, all of that stuff, that all goes into that soup that then, gets poured out on the bedroom. Like, as you do that, you can create some beautiful intimacy, some really powerful connected moments. You can have like an incredibly amazing sexual relationship where, as you said, love, you combine the two things, the sex and the intimacy.
Yeah. It's the magic combo right there. Woo.
How you feeling?
I feel spent in a great way, but
in a great way.
Lots to think about, and like continue to marinate and process on. This stuff is not one and done. It's always evolving and always finding new ways of healing and new things that come up that you didn't realize were there until you reach a higher level of understanding of yourself. And then you're able to look at things that you weren't able to look at before. Like how I was able to unpack and kind of process from a non-emotionally charged way all the things that I was talking about, from my past. That comes from being at the place that I am now.
Yes.
To be able to look at that. And so there's where I am now. There's where I was then. And I honor all of those points along the way because they were all integral into getting me to where I am now. And what's happening right now is integral in getting me to where I'm going to be next. So wherever you are at right now, to honor where you're at, acknowledge it as a point in your journey, and that we can always continue exploring and asking and connecting. And it's a beautiful thing.
I'm so happy you said that, because just the mere fact that an episode like this or a conversation like this appeals to you, it means that some sort of healing's taken place.
For sure.
Like everything that we just talked about is speaking to you on a conscious and subconscious level. It's connecting. And I absolutely believe that the next time that you are in an intimate space, or maybe not the next time, but at some point in the future, like this stuff is going to come up, meaning the reminders of addressing the things and looking at yourself. Like just because you listen to this conversation, there are things happening within you that are moving in that direction of healing and creating a more empowering experience. So I love that you said just honor where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Just honor where you're at. Honor it. Because then I think that allows you to move forward.
Yeah. Huzzah.
Cool, mama.
Thank you all so much for listening. You are incredible. If you have any follow-ups to this want to have dialogue, be sure to email us hello@diahpodcast.com. You can message us on Instagram, DIAH Podcast, or join our private Facebook group, Doing It at Home Birth Group, and we can do a live on this or have some more conversations around this. So do that. You're awesome. Thank you. We love you all.
Love you. Peace. Quick note about the Having It All podcast. I am not a doctor nor a licensed therapist. I'm a guy with a story and a passion for conscious conversation. My thoughts, opinions, and beliefs are my own. So please consult with your doctor or healthcare provider regarding any questions or issues you have related to your personal, physical, or mental health.